let's start with Richard Falk from the RYA, and please tell us about the current situation with UK certification.
Certainly. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for having me on. It's an unusual situation, I think it's fair to say, and it is quite fluid. So we were working with the UK government and engaged with a number of European governments right from the time of the Brexit referendum right through till to current day, endeavouring to find out how each country was going to deal with the qualification side of things. Unfortunately, come 1st of January, most European countries still hadn't drawn a line in the sand and indicated what their intentions were. Some 6 weeks later, we're still in that position. So the indications we have so far, let me break things into two categories: professional qualifications and leisure qualifications. Obviously, from a yachting and super yachting viewpoint, it's professional qualifications we're interested in. And the indications are actually fairly positive at this stage. And we're not having reports either from people on the ground or from European countries of any significant change to acceptance of RYA qualifications within the super yacht sector. And of course, if you're on a red flag vessel, then they've always been and will continue to be accepted. So that's really good news. The one place that seems to be problematic is Spain at this stage. The problem there doesn't appear to be in the super yacht sector, but actually sort of more broadly, and in particular for vessels under 14 meters in length, where the Spanish authorities have indicated that they will not accept UK qualifications. UK flagged vessels under 14 meters cannot get permissions to operate commercially in Spain as things stand. Holders of UK certificates of competence cannot skip Spanish flagged vessels under 14 meters. And at the moment, we've had no public statement that we're aware of from the Spanish authorities about where things stand over 14 meters. So the indication at the moment is that they're not affected. We're still waiting to hear from Spain about what the implications of this might be on other vessels, such as powerboat and personal watercraft. The good news is we are engaged with the UK government, and we also are engaged through the British Embassy in Spain with the Spanish government. And my understanding is that there are quite high-level discussions within the Spanish government this week. Clearly, the potential impact that this would have in Spain in the maritime sector is massive. There's been a bit of work done already on quantifying that and highlighting, the issues. This is not an issue for the UK. This is actually an issue for Spain and the impacts that it will have on those businesses and those individuals. So that's where we stand in the super yacht sector. Some people will be using ICCs within the super yacht world for pleasure use when they're in port and so on. Indication in all countries is that that's unaffected, as it should be for any country that has adopted Resolution 40 of the UNECE. But again, in Spain, if you are on a Spanish flagged vessel, the Spanish authorities will not accept a UK issued ICC again at this stage. I do expect this situation to calm a bit over time. This is new. We're 6 weeks into a brave new world. And I guess, the burning question for many crew will be, well, is there any point in having a UK or an RYA qualification? Well, I guess the point that I'd make is we've been operating in 58 countries for, in some of those cases, 40 years. In all cases, other than Europe, we have solutions in place. In Europe, we've had the luxury of effectively a borderless operation for decades, and it's been really convenient. There will be a way forward. it will probably be a little less convenient, and it's going to take some time to settle down, certainly in the case of Spain, and we'll keep working on those. The other issue that many people will be aware of and have concerns over is their ability to work in any particular country. And at this stage, we're not aware of anything having been published that gives an overall picture. So it really is very much up to individual crew to be in touch with the immigration authorities in the country in which they're intending to work, be that permanently or temporarily, and to confirm with them what their requirements are for that particular country. And then finally, the question that many people have is, if I'm transiting or moving into a particular country with my qualification, can I use it? And ultimately, the only people that can answer that question at this stage are the authorities in that specific country. So it will be down to the individual to make contact with the maritime authorities in that country to ask that question directly of them. And unfortunately, that information is still very slow in coming forward, and I'm unaware of any of the countries having published anything that's particularly public facing.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, there's certainly some questions that people want to be answered, and I think that's really helped to certainly give us an update at where we are now. Like you said, things are changing at a pretty steady rate. So I think we all need, if nothing else, I think we've all learned to be flexible over the last year and understand that what may be true today may not be true tomorrow. So I think we all are sending out our support for crew that are perhaps in a situation where they don't have complete clarity at the moment. And, people like yourselves, I know, are working very hard to assist with clarity as that comes through. So I'm sure we'll certainly pick up some of those topics when we all discuss the overall effect shortly. But thank you, that was really informative. So I know we're already running over, so let's move swiftly on to Admiral Cristiano Aliperta, who is let's make sure we get this correct, the former alternate representative of Italy.
Don't worry, it's okay.
So no, really pleased to have you here. So yeah, please let us know what the IMO is thinking.
Thank you very much for introducing me. I'm Admiral Aliperta, former Italian Perm Rep of IMO. I'm the Admiral of the Coast Guard, retired. Now I'm still engaged in IMO because I represent another country, the Republic of Palau, Pacific Ocean, Staten Island, very far. But it's very, very interesting to change point of view from one European member states to a Pacific Ocean member states. Very different, and for different issue, different point of view. So let me say one thing about the previous speaker. I fully agree with the consideration made by my colleague in this webinar, because of course after Brexit, UK is obliged to put in place a lot of memorandum of understanding for different countries to reestablish the rules before the Brexit. So in other words, before the Brexit, the connection with the other member states, also for the Commonwealth countries, was absolutely easy. Now, UK is a third country, is like USA or Canada or New Zealand, and the connection with the UK is obliged to be regulated by directly memorandum in different countries: Spain, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, Malta, blah, blah, blah. And according to this intention, of course, when you go to this country, you have the relations with the maritime authorities on this particular country. Of course, the COVID has freeze all the world at the moment, and all the administration is very slow because they have other things to do. And let me say that the main things in IMO now is the seafarer, the changing of the crew, the COVID-19, the impact of the seafarer, because as you know, the 90% of the goods is moved by ships in the world, and the crisis of the COVID, the impact of the seafarer is huge, very huge. let me say that back home by countries is very difficult because the airport is closed, the border is closed, the port is closed. They impose some additional visas for changing the crew. You have to find the crew, to send the crew, to change the crew, to back home with the crew. It's very, very difficult, believe me. The IMO created a team of crisis to follow this issue and release more than 37 guidelines from 1 year ago. 1 month, more or less 1 month, every month a guideline, more than one guideline for the member state, flag state, harbor, maritime authorities, ship owners, and so on. There's a huge production of documents, guideline, papers, something more. But the problem is very huge. Of course, IMO, back to the first intervention of the previous speaker, IMO remain the international maritime organization. All the rules for the international navigation are made in UK, in London, in the building after close to Lambeth Bridge. So, as before, when we discuss in Europe about some rules approved by Brussels, but the rules approved by Brussels, it's only valid for 27 member states. We had to release, we had to have a chart, have a connection with the other member states, like Panama, China, Japan, South Korea, Canada, New Zealand, Argentina, Brazil, and so on. So to have a balance, a comprehensive impact is not easy sometimes. We proceed like consensus. We fight in the main hall, but we in the Friday, normally afternoon, we have a consensus that we put out with a paper or some suggestion agreed by all the member states with negotiation like UN bodies. If I may, if I want to back for a couple of seconds, in Italy we have realized with ISIL is a training center, and Navigo is a company that has 150 companies inside. They provide service for the super yacht. And GY is International Higher Education Institution based in Malta. We have put in place a bachelor in business with specialization in management for yacht capital. It's a new idea, very, very, very new because it was launched in November. Is a bachelor. Is a 3 years bachelor. Is very new. Is a new in the world. I think is a 24 modules, and it's only online, fully online. You are not follow in presence, nothing more, because it's tailored for person that engage in work, at work, on board or something. The idea is to give more information and knowledge in terms of business or management of the super yacht, not only nautical point of view, but also strategic business and in super yacht. We have put in place two open day. We have another open day in the next 22 of February. I would like to inform you that if you something that heard has now, or you want to have more information, there is a mail, is info.gy.edu.mt Malta, but I put in the chat or put in the web if you want to have more information, because I think it's very interesting for the future generation, and not only for the future generation, but the old generation that want to have more qualification and to think about to leave the sea to back to the shore for the future. I stop here and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's really interesting. I've been looking into distance learning with a friend of mine outside of yachting, and the changes again that many students are facing at the moment, whether they are students on board or students on land. And I think it's a really important offering to be able to have, you know, really good recognized qualifications that can now be adapted to being 100% online if needed. And again, we all understand the value of you know, coming together, and I'm positive there will be that time when we can all come together again, but to have these options right now while distance learning is the best way is fantastic.
Yes, it's recognized of the European Union, it's recognized also with Malta as a Commonwealth country, so it's recognized worldwide, but it's a very good opportunity for the future. Thank you.
Perfect. Oh, thank you. Yes, we'll definitely put some social media posts out with the contact email and information so people can get hold of you. And this debate is also going to be not only rebroadcast on SuperYacht Radio several times for people that aren't available right now, but we're also going to be putting it onto the Life After Yachting YouTube channel. So we'll make sure the contact details are also in the description so that
absolutely, you can follow our open day 22nd of February, and then so we keep in touch. Perfect. if you need it.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move swiftly now on, continuing with education, and we have lovely Joey Meen from the guest program. So Joey, tell us about your accredited Purser and Yacht Management courses and how these can help.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of got a few other things to pop into my my information for you all today, but yeah, I mean, we were very keen with the guest program to try and make every effort to get the qualifications recognised ashore, and that's something that we're still working on, and it's going to probably take a little bit longer, but I think the response we're getting from various hospitality and service industries in the shore-based environment seems very positive. But in the meantime, we've been working on the Purser program, which was launched this summer. That's what sitting at home in pajamas and having lots of Zoom calls does. We start creating things. So yeah, there's more to come. And it's been very successful. We've got 3 training schools that have been incredibly busy with the number of students signing up. Interestingly, we also had a lot of captains and officers interested in the course, and some of them have actually done the course and gone through the program. We identified within the Purser training that lots of that, well, 85% I think is what we've measured it at, of the course content was very relevant to the occupational role of that environment of the deck officer these days. And a lot of that training is not available in the traditional seafaring qualifications that MCA and others offer, which obviously is very tailored to that particular part of their job, but their job is so much bigger than that. So on top of the Purser program, we're now launching an executive officer program, which I think is something that hopefully we'll have done by the end of this summer. And it's basically meant as an extension to the Purser course, but it's directly for captains, chief officers, with the intention of probably going ashore as a yacht manager, because all the goodies in that course basically would certainly meet, if not beyond, the occupational role of that particular job as a shore-based manager, and obviously onboard captain, and obviously the Purser, which is what we put it in place for originally. So we're very excited about that. Alongside it, we're also working on a leadership program. We already have leadership training embedded within chief stew level and in the Purser level. But we feel there's a bigger need to increase that training. So we've got a work group that are now working on getting sort of a bit more meat on the bone for that program, which would be something that would be over a period of time rather than a short sort of session on giving people the tools to take ashore and put into practice. We're trying to put something a little bit more robust in place where we can follow up their progression and their development. So that's something that we're also working on. But I think it doesn't just stop there, and I think we've touched on that a little bit already today, is, you know, the blended learning, distance learning is very, very popular, and we've put all the guest program now online for any of the training providers that want to offer it that way, and the uptake has been incredible. You know, it's a very positive environment. People are really enjoying learning that way. I think, you know, from what we see and hear from the stewards and stewardesses that are, you know, on board their boats or sitting at home waiting for a job or trapped somewhere because they can't actually leave their house for whatever the COVID rules are in their area. I think it's given some positivity. I think it's given some focus. I think it's giving people that upskill that they probably, need to keep their, keep their spirits up, keep their opportunities alive for when things go back to a little bit more of whatever new normal is going to be. And so we're really pleased that this is working so well. And we've even extended the online training now for our trainers. Within the guest program, we upskill our trainers on a we say reasonably regular basis, but every year we try and put something in place. And we've now got a train the trainer valet course. So if anybody out there wants to become a valet trainer, any ex-stews or stewardesses or anybody that wants to come into training from your onboard positions, we have got online valet train the trainer courses coming up in March. So do let me know if anybody's interested in that. But it's exciting times for many reasons, for those, as I've said, to giving people more opportunities without having to wait to sit back in a classroom again. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. You're so right. It made me also think of something that we talked about recently around what's known as bore-out syndrome. So people who work incredibly hard and incredibly long hours struggle during downtime often more than people that perhaps don't work the incredible hours that crew often do. And we were looking at this from a mental health perspective and how we could support crew when, perhaps they didn't know what to do with themselves during be it the quiet season in a normal year or, off rotation. And it came back, and this was a global study that we were looking to as well, again, not just within yachting, but the support and the mental stimulation that, doing qualifications and upskilling yourself and learning more does for your mental health is incredible. So whether it's because you're at home because COVID's happening at the moment, or, and you're perhaps you've got a long-term break right now, or whether it's just that you need something to do when you're not running around on charter so that you're not sat there thinking about the next charter, can be really, really valuable. And many people think of a qualification as going back to school or something like that, but actually it's not just the going back to school and learning something new. It's got so many positive benefits for you as a whole person, and I really support that. And I think it's great that there is so much more accessible education now, and I think that's going to be one of, and there are going to be quite a few, I think, one of the many benefits of what we've been going through is, I think, the opening up of distance learning and the acceptance of distance learning as being just as good and often better than just, being in a classroom, in situation, for sure.
Yeah, we've certainly seen, I think, the communities that have been sort of gained from this within the cohorts of the courses, people online talking to each other, breakout rooms, meeting afterwards to do a bit of extra self-study, assignment work that they do together. It's definitely brought people who are sitting all around the world, literally all around the world, sort of a community spirit and support spirit as well. So a lot of the training isn't just about, as you say, the learning and the course delivery. It's actually about the individuals getting something more out of it while they're at home. They're not feeling alone. They're feeling like, they're reaching every part of the world in some cases. And I think it is very uplifting from the mental health side of things as well. And, the program we put together and the requirements that we have with the training is pretty robust. I mean, we do, on some of the courses, we still require some workshop and practical assessment, and the trainers are doing an amazing job now of being able to do that. In a temporary arrangement at the moment with people that can't actually travel, we are allowing them to do that in a visual or a video or recorded or live sessions as best they can with all the technology we've got available now. But ultimately, we're not looking at dropping the blended learning after COVID. This is the new way of learning, and if the schools want to continue to teach it and the students continue to want to learn this way, we absolutely embrace it and do whatever we can to support that. It's I think it's very positive.
Yes, I completely agree, and I'm sure we're going to move on and get some information now from Dr. Paul Hunton, which I'm sure will come back into our debate at the end with us all. But similarly, getting a qualification, learning something new, be it because you have to, or whether it's because you want to. There are many different benefits. So Dr. Paul Hunton works with Bond Technology Management, and who have been a great supporter of Life After Yachting since the start. And he's going to talk to us about their cybersecurity courses, which I know there's been a must do with this because there's been some change in legislation around cybersecurity as well. But please tell us about the courses and how they can help people on board and also with onshore positions as well. Welcome.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much for having me. Where to begin with this one? As you're all aware, cybersecurity in the yachting industry has become the hot potato. It's very topical. It's the change in the requirements as of the 1st of January for cyber risk management to be implemented. One of the key factors about it is the requirement for all roles, as in all crew, to have a preparedness and awareness of cyber risk. What that actually means is, from my experience, having worked in the industry now for over 20 years, I also lecture in the subject of advanced cybersecurity techniques. So I'm more than familiar with the topic and how it's evolved over that time. And the thing that we find is this: when we see training, and the conversation tends to be around let's train the ETO, the engineers. Well, actually, they're not the people who are likely to use technology and not quite understand it or not quite get the email that's come in purporting to be from their bank, from their captain. So we've looked at it in a bit more of a broader sense. And what we've done is we've taken all the guidance and all the regulations, which are simply from the bricks and mortar world. Having worked in it for so long, I can tell you exactly where each of the pieces have come from over the years. And what is quite interesting is the technology in yachting is not unique to yachting. It's the environment which is unique. And if I explain that, you'll understand how the skills are very, very transferable. If I take our training over the last sort of decade in the typical business arena, we go along and we deliver training, for example, in the UK, GDPR around data protection come along and said, right, in a business environment, these are the types of risks that you should be protecting yourself from, whether it's from email, internet access, device updates, the use of removable media, that sort of thing. Then if I look at the other elements where I've worked, we've provided it to large factories that have critical control systems. So they have anything from plant machinery to crane machinery that all connects to a network, to an internet, and can be accessed. Then you look at, from there, we also deliver courses to, for example, banking. I deliver courses to senior management in banking, not about the environment they're working in, about their home environment, about their personal life, because that's where you can also become compromised. So that's when I say yachting, the technology isn't unique, the environment is unique, because all of a sudden you put these three elements within touching distance. So I've got the office computer sat on the side where I'm doing office type work. Yet I've also got my personal laptop where I can access YouTube from my bunk, and I can probably open the cabin door and see where the critical patch panel is for the engine management. So I've got these three environments so closely tied together. So what we've done to respond to that is we've written a training course which we've developed over the past few years to cover all of those three elements, to draw on our experience from industry and to bring it into the maritime arena. And to go and validate that, we've then got it GCHQ accredited in the UK. So our course is accredited in the UK through a GCHQ accreditation scheme, which is obviously now the National Cyber Security Centre as it's changed. And that's the course we've been delivering. So in as far as transferable skills, the skills are the same. So what we're saying is you've got all three skill sets we deliver through our course, rather than saying, well, I've done it just for a business environment, or I've done it as a personal protection, or I've done it as critical control systems. I know how to protect against, I don't know, a power unit within a factory, for example, or shore-side, whether I'm at home answering personal emails. So we've tried to encompass that to deliver in line with what the regulations were asking for, or the guidelines, I should say, rather than the specifics of the regulation. The way we've done it is, again, we've embraced this distance learning environment. We do a lot of Zoom training, and it's fantastic. I've never had, it's like now I can see everybody's face, I've got everybody's name, I can see who I'm engaging with, I can see who I'm looking at. It's fantastic, and you get a real rapport, which, having been a lecturer for many, many years, sat in a big sort of amphitheatre style where you can have up to 100 students, try engaging or asking a question or getting some interaction that you can see that people have understood, or you can go down a particular path and you can explain the content of what you're trying to talk about. So that's the approach we've taken. So we've tried to make it, firstly and foremost, it delivers a need within yachting, but equally, I could go and sit in any interview environment and say, well, actually, I've done a cybersecurity awareness course. It covered these three elements of distinct business, personal, how to protect in a more controlled environment. And I can talk about all the headings. So that's what we've tried to do. And that's what we've been delivering quite nicely certainly for the last 12 months. And training at the moment seems to be the thing for cyber. So we're doing an awful lot of it, and that's where we are.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Yes, I'm a big fan of Zoom, and I agree. It's although it doesn't replace the face-to-face, as we said, it's actually a fantastic environment for bringing a smaller group of people together, isn't it? So yeah, and I know that you said it's cybersecurity has been. I got hacked this month, personally, not professionally, luckily, and there was minimal. I had to change a few passwords, and it was fine. But it's there, isn't it? And I consider myself to be aware of scams and on top of these sorts of things, and I clicked something that I shouldn't have done. It's so easily done, isn't it?
Oh yes.
So I think that you're so right as well. Especially for cyber training, it shouldn't just be our ETOs and our engineers. It actually should be a ship-wide learning, and the crew together should. And potentially as well, I mean, I'm not sure, I've not been on your course, but it's almost something I feel that moving forward, there'll be almost like a guest briefing around this sort of thing as well, because it's actually anybody that's within the environment of a super yacht could be doing something that potentially poses a risk. So it's really something that does need everyone to be aware of.
Yes, it's, I mean, certainly the research dropped down last year to, it was around about 85% of all cyber breaches were caused by people. So it's a people issue. I'm not saying deliberately or maliciously, I'm saying quite innocently and in error. If we go back a couple of years, it used to be as high as 95%. What the suggestion is in academia at the moment, as we're following it, is because of COVID and everybody's been isolated at home or off or quite restricted to their office movements, we expect to see the trend will go up again. So it's going to go up, and it'll be the targeted areas will be people again. It will be the compromise of the classic emails, sent attachments, and that's what our course tries to cover. It tries to cover the practicalities of it, but puts it in a structured environment. So you get a course where you've had, certainly in the UK, accredited certification, that you've got a GCHQ accredited course certificate, that you say that you've done it, and we've got all the mapped out areas, but we try to put it in a practical context. So if you're on board a yacht, living, working, the next thing, it's an ETO is having to fix a bridge system. So they've got all this crossover. So we've tried to manage and trying to engage with how that works. But equally, I could walk straight out of there and I could go and work in a banking environment. I now understand the risks of critical environments, control systems. I know the understanding of when I come away from the office, what I must and mustn't do, because I'm going to go back with my iPhone and my personal laptop. So that's what we've tried to do to make it more transferable in the skill area.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. That's been hugely informative. And yes, I think wrapping up, we've got lovely Anna Petchell. I say wrapping up before we all bow in with our thoughts on everything we've learned today. Lovely Anna is back with us. Hello, Anna.
Hello, good evening, good morning, everyone.
Joining us from New Zealand this time here. So Anna's here to talk as our exit strategy coach on the courses and how that also helps crew to move from onboard to onshore based positions. So let's go straight in, Anna. So we've got a few minutes at the end for us all to have a chat. Welcome, and let us know all about this.
Awesome. Yes, it's been very interesting, actually. Thank you all for having me. I think, so if you don't know me, I'm Anna. I'm the Yachting Exit Strategy Coach from Petchell Coaching. I think it's really interesting now that there are more of these different programs that yacht crew can use when they are leaving. I think that one of the biggest things that I have come across is when people actually go to leave, they don't necessarily even want to stay in that same industry or be even using that same. I tended to see a lot of people transitioning out of the industry and using that exact same skill set, but not using the skills or the strengths that they actually even enjoyed. And so one of the biggest things that I like to help crew get really clear on is what do they actually like to do in their job at the moment? Because there'll be aspects and elements of the job that you're currently doing that you really enjoy, and there's other elements that you don't enjoy, but some of the ones that you don't enjoy you see as the actual whole job in itself. So I was seeing quite a number of people, and over years seeing a lot of primarily stewardesses leaving and going to be in kind of private estates and stuff, and they were taking the job but taking all the amazing elements out of it that they really enjoyed and just getting left with a framework that they actually didn't enjoy. So really connecting back into what is the actual stuff that you like about the job right now? What's the stuff that you've liked in the past about the job? What are the things that you actually have innately, that your strengths and your skills, what are those things that you can tap into? Because there's so many other options out there. And I think we've been kind of from a place that, you know, we're so conditioned to only know a certain number of jobs out there and careers, but there's so many more. I mean, this industry in itself is a big industry that a lot of us probably didn't know until we got into it, and all the different facets within that. So just knowing that there are so many different things that you can start to explore. So I think a really good thing is when crew are looking at what do you want to do next, or where is it that you want to go, starting to do things like insight interviews, or just getting really clear on, you know, what have you ever been interested in? It might be that you've got things that were from before you even joined yachting, or other times in your life that you actually really liked elements about that, and then you've liked elements about your job now, and there might be a way of crossing those two things over, or taking something that you've learned in the past and exploring that more. So really getting an idea of what actually makes you happy, because sometimes people get really disconnected from that. And then when you start to go into those new things or start to explore them, you know, reaching out and talking to people and having insight interviews with people. People are so willing to share information, but we're so nervous to actually ask them. And so we kind of have an idea of what a new industry will look like without actually going and asking anyone about it or researching about it. So I think that's a really good place to sort of start, is just get curious about different things. And I know we're talking tonight or today about upskilling, but there's also the element of reskilling. So you can now, with online learning, and it has been a big thing for a long time, we don't have to be in those traditional, you need to go to uni and get a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year degree. We can actually go and do micro learning, where you go and you learn exactly this kind of topic or this skill set within a certain amount of time. And now that can be done really specific and niche to a certain industry or a certain career or a certain job. So being aware that that is there, and especially over the last year, a lot of training platforms have gone more online. And these things don't need to cost you an arm and a leg, and it doesn't need to cost you your entire career, either time or money. These are things that you can do while you're still in the job. You could, you know, while you're off a charter, or over, you know, when you have a slightly downtime, you could be learning a whole new skill set, or, you know, a new trade, or a new something else that you could be learning whilst you're doing something else. So that when it gets to that time that you are ready to learn, you've already actually taken on many different courses, And there's so many things out there that you can do for free or at lower cost or through, different platforms and stuff like that. So I know, Joey, you mentioned before that, especially with networks and communities and stuff, there's so much around those that they can in themselves. So if you're really into any sort of thing outside of the industry you're in now, you can get into those communities. Those communities in themselves can teach you a lot. And those people have the ability to point you in the right direction and open and expand your mind to hold more possibilities. So I think using that power of actually just asking people and getting curious is really important. Other things like getting mentoring and shadowing others. So if you are going into something new, having a mentor that's someone that's a few steps ahead of you, and having someone who's already done what you're doing or already in that industry can really help. And people are so willing to help. We don't realize how much. Has anyone ever come to you and you've said, oh no, I can't help you. I can't show you what I do. We're always willing to help other people if they stand up and take, have the guts to come up and say, can you give me a hand, or can you show me, or do you have some advice for me? People are usually really willing to help you. So, doing that and getting into that, I think is really important. And you learn a lot more than if you sit back and kind of don't want to go down that path. And the last thing that I was going to say was just around considering that there's all these different options and industries now. And there's lots of things like being social entrepreneurs, getting into the whole, there's so many different avenues and factors out there that you can go down. You don't have to go down those traditional paths. And so really getting curious about those and looking into how can I explore different avenues. There's lots of different career path finders online that you can do quizzes, you can talk to coaches, you can talk to me, you can talk to lots of people, but just talking to different people and getting different ideas and seeing, how do the skills that you've had now, how can you either upskill, reskill, or how can you use those to help you along? Is really quite useful. So I think that
I completely agree. You've, as always, Anna, you are an inspiration and have something new and interesting to bring to discussions every time. But you kind of summarized in there, and I think everything is very circular, isn't it? But you kind of summarized there where the Life After Yachting movement started with or developed into very quickly, which is we brought together a group of people that were willing to share and willing to give advice for free to crew, to share their experiences. And I think you're completely right. It's a really important thing to make sure crew are aware that people will be will happily share their experiences. It's not a bad thing to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. And you don't have to make a hard decision straight away. You can explore multiple avenues and have conversations with different people that will give you different perspectives. And sometimes you think you might want to go and do one thing, and actually after some research you realize that no, I want to do this thing over here that I hadn't even considered at the start of things. And just to sort of bring this back round, we started this is our part one of our talks around Brexit, as well as obviously we will definitely explore further avenues. But the start of this conversation was around how is the effect of Brexit going to change how qualifications are recognised? And that's been a large topic for us anyway. And people like Joey and Titta have been working hard to ensure that qualifications can be recognised both on board and on shore, so that people really see the value. But I think that the other point that's been really important today is it's not just the value of getting the certificate at the end of the qualification, it's the process of learning, the process of networking, of meeting people that have similar goals and similar values to you as well. And also the knowledge that you gain from the qualifications will often, you know, work in many different scenarios. So, you know, you may, and you hear about this again in all, you know, somebody goes off and gets a degree in art history or something like that, and they never actually work in art history. They work in in many other, but it was the learning they had during that time, not necessarily the end qualification, that actually gave them what they needed to empower themselves and you know, go down the path that they wanted to. So anyway, I'll shut up shortly. Well, thank you very much, Anna. I really appreciate it. And we'll open up, I think, the table to anybody that wants to comment on anything else that we've spoken about today. So we've, just to recap very briefly, we've discussed the RYA and the qualifications with Brexit, Spain being an issue at the moment. We've discussed the Bachelor qualifications with the IMO, and they're open day on the 22nd of February to find out more about distance learning on that side of things. We've had Joey with the guest program with their Purser and Yacht management qualifications, which gives a really great bridge between onboard management skills and onshore management skills. We've discussed mentoring and cybersecurity, and how those skills literally apply to pretty much every job in the world these days, because the internet is everywhere. So therefore it's really important that we have those skills. So yes, open it up to the table. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to bring up or discuss?
Well, I would like to thank everybody for fantastic information you have given, and also really covering every single point I wanted to discuss today. What I have learned is I'm actually at the moment doing Anna's course, and she's been teaching me a lot about my past career, future career, existing career, and it's a fantastic course just to learn about yourself also. And I think I need to do a cybersecurity course, because I'm not on top of that, that's for sure, and Sarah knows about that. So I think that might be my next point of view. And we can see that every single course can be used in many other industries, and this is what LAY is really all about, to pointing this out and helping people to move forward. And I also think that we have just opened a position as a social media marketing person who can actually join LAY and learn while we are doing it from professionals and study on the side. So I think this is a great example how nowadays you can study online and actually be an apprentice and find yourself a new job while being part of the kind of a LAY movement or community, or however you want to call it. But yeah, so please, any open discussions, everybody who wants to point anything. Anna wants to, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in line with that is the fact that you really can, like, I've had quite a few crew who have, I've found most crew are usually in that last 2 years. They've said, I've got 2 years more, I'm dedicating 2 years more to this. And that's, I mean, there's no better time than now, really, to start planning the next thing, whether that's 5 years, 2 years, 10 years now, 3 months ago kind of thing. But you can really get into learning and setting up a whole new career or direction, or upskilling where you're at, wherever that is right now. And it doesn't mean that you have to take another full-time job on, but you can start working alongside people, like Titta was saying, and start actually taking on those different roles and different aspects that mean that when you're getting to the position of actually leaving, that you've got something already set up. And I think that's kind of that safety that maybe a lot of us would have enjoyed to have had that option of when we were going. And so one of the biggest things that I encourage people to do is, you might not want to take the full jump by itself, but you might want to sort of start to rejig your time around so you can do that. And if anyone is listening, I do workshops and coaching programs that help people get really clear on where you want to go. So just wanted to add that in. If anyone is interested, get in touch with me. There's all the information there. So
awesome. And you can contact Anna directly through the Life After Yachting portal and arrange a free video call. So yes, absolutely. I think, and you're right, we in the first lay Life After Yachting webinar, we spoke with a first officer who had set up his own business and was working as a first officer and running a business at the same time, and had been doing it for I think about 9 months at that point, and again utilizing his free time and his contacts within the industry to build the business and make sure it was really what he wanted to do before he decides to then make the jump. So yeah, I think there is, and again, it's one of the benefits of the world we live in now, and benefits of the internet, because it certainly wasn't so easy to do before, is that we can have these dual lives and run, multiple, learn while we work while we learn, have a business running while we're working another job and things like that. So as long as we're managing our time and making sure that we're not burning out, I think there are so many possibilities out there, aren't they? Joey?
I just wanted to sort of support what Anna was saying, and yourself as well, Sarah. I think, we see this through the trainers that come into, the ship to shore side of things. They bring such a passion with them and so many wonderful skills. They're coming literally in from, as you say, a very different environment to suddenly working in a classroom or working as we are now, and we've discussed in the sort of distant learning environment. It is, that they're bringing such a passion and such a willingness to mentor and support those students. And I see some of the trainers, they're literally following crews' careers from start to finish, and they have this wonderful sort of support for them and their peers. And it is a very refreshing, it's a lovely thing to see. But there's, I just wanted to support what you guys were saying, I think, on, sort of the end results of things. It's, it can be very positive and quite refreshing, really. Yeah,
definitely. We've had a question from a crew member come in, which is great. So I'm going to completely change topics slightly, although still within what we're talking about today, but I want to make sure that we answer some questions as they come through. We've had Jessica ask about dock walkers, so going from the end right back to the beginning again. And again, I love this circular feel with Life After Yachting, and also being life before yachting and helping crew through their whole journey, like we were just discussing. But Jessica's asked whether anybody has any insight into how it's going to work for dock walkers, so crew who are hoping to get jobs or their first job on board at the moment. And at the moment, with the changes with Brexit and everything else going on, and the changes within working in Europe, she's saying that legally at the moment dock walkers are not allowed to look for work within the 90-day travel period. So does anybody on the panel have any insight into this at the moment? Go for it.
Thanks very much. I have to say I'm not expert in this area, but I have been on a number of these calls over recent weeks, and the information that we've had through from experts that I've heard, so I'm relaying this second or third hand, is that it very much varies from one country to another as to what is, I won't say permitted, but rather tolerated. So I think that the person that's asked this question is absolutely right, that from a legal perspective, it would certainly seem that under the the Schengen arrangements and so on, it would appear that it would not be legal to be seeking work whilst in a European country without a working visa. I think that appears to be the official position at the moment. But as with anything, I think there'll be pathways evolving over time, given how important that is to the industry. That whether that takes months or longer, there will be solutions found as to how that can be achieved. I don't know what those solutions might be, but I think the interpretation at the moment would appear to be that dock walking, seeking employment whilst in Europe without a working visa would not be advisable.
Thank you, Richard. I know Anna, you've got a perspective on here, being from the other side of the globe.
I'm not sure this is the best advice to be giving, but I know that for Brexit, that's obviously not changed anything for New Zealanders, Australians and South Africans, and it's never really stopped any of those countries dock walking. I know that's not exactly the advice to be giving, but just in personal opinion.
Disclaimer that nobody on this conversation will be held responsible for any advice given.
Definitely not me.
sharing past experiences, but yes, exactly.
Yeah, but in terms of if nothing has changed dramatically, then
everyone must do what they must do. Yes, I think that's a very good and diplomatic way of sharing that experience. And yes, of course, people should follow the laws and follow their dreams. Which one of those they decide to follow on each given day, as it were. So
exactly.
Yes.
Employment problem might be a problem for the yacht, might not be that much of a problem for actual job seeker, but as Richard says, so in few months and hopefully in few weeks, so there's going to be clarifications for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're starting to get to the point of wrapping up here. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up or mention? Lovely Maeve, yes, we'd love to hear from you. How are you?
I'm well. I've had some lovely chats over the past 6 weeks with senior crew captains, and many of them started their careers 2 decades ago. And one of the interesting things is, 2 decades ago, it was much more organic growth. Interesting stories of how they landed their first job, which is not comparable to the younger crew now. But all of them held mentorship being one of their most important responsibilities. Just to reiterate what Anna was saying, unfailingly, all of them saw the importance of mental health and mentorship being extremely important. But particularly the captains as well said, kind of when we were starting out, we got our certification, our captain's license, and thought, great, but actually driving the boat is 10% of what I do. Particularly over the past 2 decades, between IT, complexity, bigger boats, the administration, the management. And these are all skills, whether you're in charge of a boat or on shore, are transferable skills. And I think that's important to remember. There are so many skills. It's wonderful to see now that there's so many that they can get a certification for, which will allow them to transfer between the two industries. And the fact that now so many of them are online makes complete sense for a global industry, because one of the big problems a few years back was trying to take time out to do the next course. They'd have to try and put it in between rotations or whatever. So I see this as huge progress, but definitely great to see certifications that allow people show their abilities that they've probably naturally been getting through experience, but it will not only give them the confidence, but also give them the transferable certification.
I totally agree. I think, and that's one of the great things I think with mentoring as well, is we often don't realize the skills we have because it's just the job and you just do it and you don't actually realize what it is that you're doing. So, a captain doesn't actually, some captains don't go, oh, well, actually I'm an accountant and I'm a HR manager and I'm, a health and safety risk assessor and I'm a taste tester. I'm, I do all of these, I'm a water sports instructor. I'm, and it's often that's something that mentoring can bring, because somebody with that outside perspective can go, well, hey, like you said, you don't just drive boats. This is such a small part of what you actually do. So yes, I absolutely agree. And that's one thing with TUVYC, Titta's consultancy business. That's something that's worked really well over the last 5 or 6 years is the sort of the mentoring for new business owners. So you've worked with yacht crew wanting to start their own businesses potentially, so not necessarily wanting an employed job, but actually again having that person going, these are the skills and this is what you're great at, and this could go and you know, and don't forget this part of running a business as well is just this value that you can't necessarily get from reading a book, because you need to have that interaction with somebody that can kind of pick through your skills and your greatness.
And that's what mentoring, of course, is all about, is giving advice and listening and adding skills which are not, maybe that person doesn't have. And we have this conversation with Sarrah all the time. We're both running our own businesses, and this is how it works. It needs to be a community, and we need to be able to talk to each other and learn from each other and use the best skills of each other too. So that's how it works.
If I may, Titta, the idea of the Bachelor was exactly what the lady from the radio has already said. Because if you see the title, Bachelors in Business, with specialization in management for yacht captains. So it's was thought exactly for the transition from the sea to the land for the old captain, let me say old captain, and for the new, for give more skill and more expertise and more knowledge for a very important part of the management of the super yacht, because it's not only to move the ship from a point A to a point B. That is a technical nautical exercise, but the other exercise is more than 50% now for a super yacht of 60, 70 meters is a very huge, the amount of comprehensive business and management in the shipyards. So in the yacht captain. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Also, it's a hospitality business.
Yes, absolutely.
And you are there for the owner and the guest, but also for your crew. And you need to know those.
Yeah. I invite you, I invite all the people on the radio or something to have a chat with us, with GY, the power that is very interesting Bachelor is 24 models from different issue, maritime law, maritime economic, information technology management, project and operation management, and so on. So there's 180 ATC credit. Mm-hmm. So you have the recognition in all the European Union. Is fully online with a platform that we provide the lessons. You can learn the lesson when you want, in the afternoon, in the morning, when you are free. You can get the examination when you want, because it's the idea is to have an exam every month. So,
and I think
that is the idea.
Yeah, this is what we have been working with Joey very closely, to get the other industries to understand the specific skills and credit those specific skills of yachting to be transferred to other industries. And this is what basically one of the basic ideas of LAY, that this is what we want to study, do, and support. Yes,
let me say the last thing that we have put in place, credit recognition, prior learning. So if you join the Bachelor, they have 3 years, or the maximum is 3 years. But if we recognize you a prior learning, recognition prior learning, you can get the Bachelor in 1 year or 1 year and a half. So if you are 20 years on board, of course, when we discuss about, let me say, search and rescue, that is one of the 24 models. So safety and security management, maybe you have all the skill on this, and we recognize you all the credit, and you can squeeze your time to achieve the Bachelor.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, I think we're pretty much done. I know that we've already run over a little bit. We thank you very much, SuperYacht Radio, for moving your program around so that we could have a few extra minutes to discuss everything. But I think that's everything from me. And I think we're pretty much, it looks like everybody else is done. So I'm going to hand back to Maeve and say thank you to everyone. We've had, just to recount so that you will know who get hold of, and contact details will be available on social media. But thank you to Richard Falk from the RYA. Thank you to Admiral Cristiano Aliperta from the IMO.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joey Meen from the guest programme.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Paul Hunton, who's working in partnership with Bond Technology Management. And thank you, Anna Petchell from Petchell Coaching. And of course, lovely Titta from TUVYC and Lay, and lovely Maeve from SuperYacht Radio. So thank you very much, everyone.
Well,
thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye
Thanks
to
very
all.
much, everyone.
And thank you again to Titta and Sarrah for organising, ironically, an education seminar in many ways, but it's always an education when we get to tune in to Life After Yachting.
Thank you, everybody. What a fantastic program. And I'm sure we're going to meet up again. And looking forward to our next session. And have a lovely start of the spring here in southern France. And I think everywhere else too is coming.